Jewish Channel's Week in Review. The flotilla raid, the videos, the condemnations, the Obama administration's take, and Jewish celebrities at the White House. It's the Jewish news that's changing your world on this episode of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. The story making headlines everywhere this week is the Israeli Navy's raid on the humanitarian aid ship Mavi Marmara in international waters beyond Gaza. 9 of those on board the ship were killed, and dozens injured after Israeli troops boarded the vessel in the hope of turning it away from Gaza as part of Israel's blockade of Gaza. Israel is asserting 2 of its soldiers suffered gunshot wounds, presumably from soldiers' sidearms taken by activists on the ship, and a number of its troops were seriously injured. The raid has had immediate and significant global repercussions for Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu canceled a meeting with President Barack Obama. Condemnations from the European Union and many countries and humanitarian organizations have poured in, and Israel now has a significantly damaged relationship with the only majority Muslim country that had called Israel an ally, Turkey, under whose flag the ship was sailing. Turkey has withdrawn its ambassador to Israel, and the Turkish president has suggested more repercussions may be coming. The story has also brought a new round of condemnations from Israel's blockade of Gaza, which Israel says it needs to keep weapons out of the Hamas-controlled territory, but which critics point out has kept building materials and other supplies from reaching Palestinians there. It's unquestionably been a week of strong criticism of the Jewish state, as media reports have continually provided new assertions regarding Israel's conduct. But amid all the criticism, there appears to be a distinct difference between the story as it is presented in print stories and as it is presented on television. On television, video footage is what matters, and video provided by the Israel Defense Forces have provided a very different interpretation of events than that seen in print reports. In this video, which is likely the most viewed and most frequently aired on TV news, the IDF shows its soldiers rappelling one by one from helicopters onto the ship's upper deck, where they are immediately met by activists beating them with pipes and other materials. One soldier is shown being tossed headfirst from the upper deck to a lower level. This video has presented a key difference between how the print media tells this story and how TV news does it. Other videos shared by the IDF show close-ups of weapons found on board and additional angles and footage of the conflict. And other videos suggest the possible intent of those in the flotilla to engage in violence. This video, translated by Palestinian Media Watch, shows passengers chanting, "The army of Muhammad will return," and an interviewee declares, "We face one of 2 happy endings, martyrdom or reaching Gaza." But while the videos themselves strongly suggest IDF soldiers were acting in self-defense, that hasn't stopped the criticism of Israel's management of the flotilla raid and the Gaza blockade in general. Numerous critics are asking why Israel wasn't ready to handle a conflict with civilians who had light weapons like pipes and chains, as the Israeli soldiers weren't equipped with the kinds of non-lethal weapons that could subdue the ship's passengers. Critics are also asking why boarding of the ship at all was necessary, when Israel has turned other ships away without boarding them. All of this suggests that condemnation of Israel's activities here won't be placed on the soldiers involved, but rather will head up the chain of command. But more important than the final public opinion of this specific incident is what the criticism of Israel here reveals about broader attitudes towards Israel in its conflicts with Palestinians. And with the early and widespread condemnation Israel has received, it's clear that Israel is mostly alone on that. The Obama administration's response has been a rare one to not single out Israel for criticism. In its first statement Sunday, the White House declared, "The United States deeply regrets the loss of life and injuries sustained and is currently working to understand the circumstances surrounding this tragedy." Secretary of State Hillary Clinton also played the event down the middle in statements Monday, condemning the, quote, acts on the ship, but not the specific actions of either side. Clinton further described the Gaza situation in equivalent terms.
"The situation in Gaza is unsustainable and unacceptable. Israel's legitimate security needs must be met, just as the Palestinians' legitimate needs for sustained humanitarian assistance and regular access for reconstruction materials must also be assured."
The response from the White House has made the United States stand out so significantly from the rest of the international community that the U.S., too, is feeling isolated. A U.S. official was quoted by Politico reporter Ben Smith saying, "The situation is that they're so isolated right now that it's not only that we're the only ones who will stick up for them, we're the only ones who believe them, and what they're saying is true." And the timing of the flotilla incident probably couldn't be more awkward for U.S.-Israel relations. After a much-discussed charm offensive from the White House to woo Israel supporters, the Obama administration had been making significant effort to keep American Jews and Israelis happy. Much of that took place during the past month of May, which, as we've reported in recent weeks, is now Jewish American Heritage Month in the United States. Days before the flotilla incident, the White House invited hundreds of interesting and influential Jewish figures to a Jewish heritage reception. Rebecca Honig-Friedman was there and has this report.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
The President and First Lady welcomed prominent members of the Jewish community to the White House last week for a first-time reception celebrating Jewish American Heritage Month. The event featured a program with opening remarks by President Obama.
The diversity of talents and accomplishments represented in this room underscores the vast contributions that Jewish Americans have made to this country.
Among the diverse and impressive guest list were the likes of Senator Arlen Specter, New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman, former National Football League player Alan Weingrad, and Supreme Court Justice nominee Elena Kagan. But there was one attendee whom the president seemed most excited about.
We've got senators and representatives, we've got Supreme Court justices and successful entrepreneurs, rabbinical scholars, Olympic athletes, and Sandy Koufax.
The most famous Jewish baseball player even inspired a bit of wit from the famously funny president.
Sandy and I actually have something in common. We are both lefties. He can't pitch on Yom Kippur. I can't pitch.
But on a more serious note, the president took the opportunity to acknowledge the contributions Jews have made to the American value system.
Jewish Americans have helped to open our eyes to injustice, to people in need, and to the simple idea that we ought to recognize ourselves in the struggles of our fellow men and women. What we are called upon to do now is to continue to live up to those values as a nation, to continue to uphold the principle of tikkun olam, our obligation to repair the world.
The president also affirmed the U.S. government's devotion to the state of Israel.
That is why, even as we never waver in pursuing peace between Israelis, Palestinians, and Arabs, our bond with Israel is unbreakable.
Following Obama's remarks, the first African-American woman to be ordained from Hebrew Union College, Rabbi Alyssa Stanton, delivered a rousing rendition of Jewish American poet Emma Lazarus' most famous work, The New Colossus.
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free.
The event concluded with a performance by pop singer Regina Spektor, who is of Russian Jewish descent and appeared humbled by the crowd.
Oh man, this is hard. Sorry. I don't know how you do what you do.
Despite her insecurities, Spektor regained control of her performance, playing to an appreciative audience. Amid this gathering of famous and influential Jews, Spektor represented some of the most recent Jewish contributions to the arts in America, a fitting closure to Jewish American Heritage Month in May. Reporting for the Jewish Channel from the White House, I'm Rebecca Honig-Friedman.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's all for this week. For more news and analysis from the Jewish Channel during the week, please check out our blog at newsdesk.tjctv.com. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable: IO Optimum Cable Channel 291, Time Warner Cable Channel 528, RCN Channel 268, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and Cox Cable Channel 1. For more information, visit tjctv.com.